Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this gorgeous live again today. I am here with Lynn Townsend. Is that how you say your last name?
That's how you say it. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Who is an incredible photographer and who just finished going through a ceremony program around Mary Magdalene. And can
Yes.
you show us the Italy photograph?
Yes.
So we have to
Yes, of
tell you a story.
course.
I'll introduce myself in a minute. But
Okay.
Lynn and I were doing a coffee chat. We're both in this networking organization called the Nova Global. And we'd met at a retreat for the same organization. And I was like, hey, we should just do a 30-minute chat. And I was having a rough day. I really was. And I wasn't gonna lie and fake it. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, hi. And she's like, how are you? I was like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, later in the conversation, she said, "What can I do for you?" And the photograph there behind you, which it's not fake, and her husband took the photograph. He's also a photographer.
Yes.
It was like, honestly, could you just tell me about that that thing behind you because it is just pulling me in. Little did I know it's Tuscany, Italy, correct?
Yes, exactly,
In the
exactly.
morning fog, and we just go on this tangent of her telling me all about this incredible trip of a lifetime that they took as a family to Italy. They blocked off a few weeks, 7 weeks,
7
and,
weeks,
um,
yep.
it was so inspiring to me. So today we wanna talk about, um, honestly, the way that life is willing to bend to just meet you in the magic. I
Mm.
thought your story was so inspiring, so I want you to retell it today. And then also,
Okay.
um, speaking of magic, I know that Lynn just finished. I mean, what was this program? Mary Magdalene, how many weeks? Like, what was this?
Yeah, it was 7 weeks as well, actually, now that I So that seems like another magical synchronicity.
So magic.
Yes, yeah, it was a 7-week container to sort of do a deep dive into Mary Magdalene, learn more of the teachings, which was completely new to me. I had just been introduced and just been feeling the pull, and had just listened to a podcast with Megan Watterson when
What?
I met, yeah,
Talk about her in a minute, y'all.
yes,
Okay.
when I met this incredible woman, Dio, who has put together, it's short for Dionysius,
Mm.
um, who put together the 7-week container to, like I said, do a deep dive into Mary Magdalene, her teachings, the different gates. Um, and it all included ceremony. It was in person and also online. And so we were just able to really be in the magic of being together, which I feel like is unlike anything else, and we don't do it as much anymore. So
Mm.
yeah, it was really phenomenal. So I can go into that more
Yeah.
too.
Okay, great. So yeah,
Yeah.
today we're going to be just honestly taking a gander. If you have been feeling like your life's a little bit one-dimensional or stale lately, or you've been feeling like maybe you've been working kind of hard and you haven't been as attuned and connected to your spiritual realms, whether you normally are or whether you never really have been and you want to be more so, I really feel like the outcome of this conversation is going to be it's going to pack a punch full of magic just between the
Mm.
synchronicities and the ways that you're going to hear about her awesome story. And then we're going to talk about Mary Magdalene. So, a little bit about me before we dive in, too. I am Lizzie Langston. I am the author behind my publication, The Kitchen and the Cosmos, which is a forever study and exploration into what it means to be a cosmic being in a human body. And so the kitchen is the human aspect of us where we talk about nervous system and trauma and relationships and finances, sort of the mundane. And then you've got the magical cosmic part, which is what I believe is our true nature, here interwoven with our humanity. And so we try not to secularly bypass and we try not to spiritually bypass. We try to hold both. And so that's what we do here at the kitchen and the cosmos. And so thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for being here and letting me interview you today.
Of course, of course. And I just love everything that you said because it ties all of this together. These might seem like two separate threads, like a trip to Italy and Mary Magdalene. Where on earth does this, come together? And it's exactly what you've said, and everything that I think, all the feminine wisdom that's rising again. And that is exactly what you said. And I love that that's what you discuss is this, that we are having this human experience, but we are spiritual beings. Oh, look at that.
Yes, this is my
Yes.
actually, let me just segue into a little bit of Mary
Yeah.
Magdalene here. So,
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene has helped me directly. So, a little background, I read a book called The Sophia Code, which is a channeled text. The gal that channeled it was sex trafficked as a kid and then grew up and healed and always was deeply, deeply, deeply psychic, had lifetimes worth of psychic ability still in this life. And as she recovered from her horrific childhood, she really deepened into her mission and her calling and received this channeled text from different ascended masters. And so Mary Magdalene is one of them. So there's a whole message and chapter from Mary Magdalene. And I bring that up because I have read this text and I, not every day, but I often call in, it's called the Circle of Empowerment, where you invite, White Buffalo Woman, Isis, Hathor, Green Tara, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, and the Sophia Dragon Tribe, which sounds crazy, but it's so cool. And it's part of this text as well. Anyway, so I have at certain times in my life worked directly, to my understanding, directly with Mary Magdalene. And one of the things that I've come to understand is that she is the gateway to really opening your voice for the liberation of women or of the feminine Christ consciousness. Um, if you think about the time that Jesus and Mary Magdalene lived, I hear a little bit of an echo. I don't know if that's like something we need to do anything about. Hi, Jude. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for joining. We're gonna get real magic-y today. Um, that's okay. We'll kind of flow through it. But Mary Magdalene lived at a time when women were property. Okay, women were the property of their husbands. This is the life. This is the time she incarnated into. And from my understanding, her mother and grandmother were both highly trained Egyptian priestesses. And so she comes from this lineage of extremely attuned women. And she was, because the time in which she lived was one where if a man was just angry and wanted to like get a woman in trouble, like he could. And, even going out in public as a woman was actually sometimes dangerous. And it's a lot like the immigration today, like immigrants, right?
Mm.
With ICE and everything, it's like it was been scary for a lot of people to be out on the streets, and that is exactly how it was for women at that time. They could look at a man wrong and they could be in trouble. He had that much authority. And so her parents, from my understanding, again, according to the channel text, the Sophia Code, but her parents kept her not fully away, but definitely protected her and allowed her to have an upbringing where she was a little bit isolated, but in doing that, she always had the comfort of her ability to connect to the higher realms, to the other realms. And so she was just deeply trained by the time she was going about walking in the streets with Jesus as equals, which is so crazy. And also, one of the things I love about her is she's just such a rebel. It's like spiritual rebellion. And so another thing we talked about besides Italy was we both were brought up in high demand religion. So why don't we start there? I think we'll do
Okay.
high demand religion and Mary Magdalene as the transmission, and then we got to talk about your magic trip. How about we do that?
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great.
So
Yes.
tell me, Lynn, about your religious upbringing, as much or as little as you want to share. I know this can be sometimes
Sure.
feel a little bit unsafe for those of us who still have family that are in these high demand religions. So whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I am happy to share and be an open book, actually. So I was raised Catholic and actually in a very loving, very, very loving community, very loving family. My dad was born in a really small town in Kansas where the church was right down the street. They went every day. What I always remember from my grandmother's house, on his side is that there was holy water that you would dip your fingers in before going down the stairs. There was a crucifix in every room, including like hanging above the toilet. That's one that I just will always remember. I don't know, from being a kid and being there.
Oh my gosh, I love
So
it.
very, very highly religious. My mom was actually in the convent for a while on her way to becoming a nun, and which I don't think I had shared this part with you. And she always just had this desire to go and help people who were less fortunate. So that was the start of her path. And for a number of reasons, she came out of the convent and married my dad. And at that time, so my dad is 96, my mom is 86. They got married quite late for their time. Um, and I'm so grateful I wouldn't be here, if she hadn't come out of the convent and married my dad. But my
Absolutely.
uncle is a priest, her brother is a priest. So there's a lot of I was raised with a lot of religion.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, it really was a very loving place to grow up.
Yeah.
I always, I think, as I got older, I started having a lot of questions and trying to figure out what I believed, and feeling feeling questions around some of the teachings that I felt like, I don't know that this is the only way, and it's definitely being presented as the way.
Yeah.
Um, and in high school, I joined a youth group called Young Life that was Christian. And for me, that was like a whole door opening, actually, because it wasn't as narrow as Catholicism, and it was Christianity. So for me, I felt like, oh my gosh, this feels like so much bigger. And
Cool.
and so for a while, I was going to like a Christian church and a Catholic church, and I was just trying to figure out my place. And
Yeah.
even in sharing that with my parents, it was really hard for them, because this is how they were brought up, this is what they believed, and
Yeah.
they were wondering where they went wrong.
Oh, yeah. I can
um
relate to that. I grew up Mormon, so we'll talk about that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then in college, I was in a different state, and I was looking, and I felt like I wanted a community, and I was looking at all these different churches, and there were a lot of different experiences. I mean,
Yes.
I was really seeing the extremes of things.
Yeah.
And I joined this Bible study, and I was in that for a while, and I remember I forget what we were studying exactly, but I came to this point where I was asking the leader, so are you telling me that the only way to be saved is through Jesus, is believing in Jesus and calling him your savior? And I just felt like this does not feel right to me. This isn't big enough. This is not, it just, I had heard something once that said, if something insults your soul, look into it, ask questions, like, don't believe anything that insults your soul. And that was something that I felt like, this insults my soul. And so I remember asking about it. And she was saying, I know it's really hard, but there's a bigger plan. And basically, yes, like, if you don't hear about Jesus, if you don't believe in Jesus, like, yeah, unfortunately, you're out of luck. And that was, for me, it was like everything leading up to that, where I just thought, it's not what I believe. This is not right. And
Mm.
I just went on my own path to find my own truth. And that's been this beautiful journey.
Mm.
And I have put a lot of religion aside, for a long time, in finding my own truth. Um, and so now this whole Mary Magdalene thing is bringing parts of it back, which at first have been confusing and hard, and feeling like, do I even want to revisit these things? I don't know.
Right, because
But now
she's
it's,
associated with religion, whether we like it or not.
yes, yes, yeah. But it's this whole different lens now. And I'm finding that, and especially in going through this beautiful container, I'm finding that, oh my gosh, I don't have to throw everything out. And some of what I loved and felt so drawn to and was nourishing is actually, um there are such beautiful parts of it that can be brought back in and seen with this other lens. So I'm just in the midst of that. I feel like I'm just at the beginning of letting some things back in, and letting some healing occur. And
Yeah.
it's right. It's just on the journey.
Oh, girl. Oh, girl. Yes, girl. We've got so much love coming in. Like Sheila's like, here for
Oh,
you in this conversation. Thank you, Sheila.
oh, yes,
Oh,
yes.
and I've got my crystal too. I'm just gonna hold it here because it takes some
Yeah.
bravery for those of us who were raised religiously. I know Rachel, the Milfy medium that hopped on. I don't know if she's still on, but she was raised really religiously as well, and she's now a medium, just like I am. And anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
I wanna speak to something that you mentioned, which is when we have religious trauma of any kind, whether it's betrayal
Mhm.
trauma or even just self-abandonment or all of that programming, and then we wake up one day and we're like, whoa, yeah, no, that's not it for me. And in fact, it doesn't feel good. So, and I'm not here to say religion is bad, by the way, to anybody who it might be serving. But for those of us who have come out of religion, realizing that our path is a sovereign spiritual one, where we might still want community, but we don't want institution. Um,
Yes, right. Yes, that's a
yeah,
perfect way to put it.
right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I follow this guy. I don't know his full name, but his Substack is Nabu, Nabu, and he knows like Greek and Aramaic and all these languages, and so he retranslates the Bible and what Jesus taught and everything. He offers you a more true interpretation. And
Mhm.
what is fascinating is that Jesus, and I also believe Mary Magdalene, and this is not about religion. I believe they were ascended masters. Okay, so
Mhm.
they are people who, they are souls, cosmic beings, like we all are, who incarnated at a time when the way they lived was medicine for humanity.
Mm, mhm.
What their souls, what their consciousnesses brought to our collective consciousness was something that helped us to evolve our consciousness. And what's interesting is that they lived so long ago, and then basically empire. So Constantine and the Council of Nicaea. Um, Sorry, I'm slightly distracted from this echo, but I'm going to try really hard not to be. Um, but basically, empire saw the early Christian movement that was so actually concerned with their inner realms. That they were not about religion and institution, but empire needed a vehicle to control and to gain control and to gain political power of the masses. And so they couldn't stamp out Christianity, but they changed it to fit their needs and their agendas. And so that is what happened to the Bible. That is where Mary Magdalene was then called a whore. They extracted from the teachings two main themes. And I'm not an expert on this. Megan Watterson, the PhD, double master's degree, she's an expert. Mary Magdalene Revealed is the book that took me out of Mormonism. Go get it, go read it. Okay. It has Mary Magdalene's gospel with the commentary of a feminist theologian who's very well trained. Um, but anyway, basically, Mary Magdalene's gospel was ordered to be burned. Luckily, some holy monks hid it in the desert instead, and then it was dug up in the 1940s, I want to say. Um, and also a lot of other pieces of Jesus's teachings and the apostles' writings and stuff. So, what I'm trying to say is that religion has posed as this vehicle for our evolution, but in reality, it was overtaken by empire. And there's been this trickle down effect. And what Jesus and Mary Magdalene were advocating for was this inner experience of going inward and
Right.
finding God within you. That I am frequency within you. And I was both devastated to learn that as a devout Mormon growing up. And also, it was because of my deep connection with Jesus. Um, at that time, I saw him as the Son of God, right? And so, like there
Mm,
was the whole doctrine was in there too. But my through line to Jesus was always earnest, and gratefully
mm,
because of that, I was able to understand the pitfalls of religion the way that I had understood it, and the wrong framing of Mary Magdalene. So, can you hold that book up again, by the way?
yeah, of course.
Let's now talk about I've shared a little bit earlier in this live of what I know about Mary Magdalene, and I want to share more, but could you tell us, I know you haven't read this book yet. It's on your shelf. You're ready to read it.
I
So
know. I started reading the first couple chapters, and I'm underlining pretty
everything.
much everything
I know.
everything in it. And after having gone through this course, now
Tell
it
us
means so much more.
Yeah. So tell us about this course on Mary Magdalene that you just finished. There was ceremony. You were maybe doing a trade where you were doing your photography in exchange or something. Can you just what's
Yes.
the juiciest juice right here, right now?
Okay. So, and also I think yeah, I want to,
Sorry, I
so
can't. I cannot.
I want to say my, like the teacher's name again, the leader of this group, Dionysia. I don't know if I said her name correctly in the beginning. So she goes by Dio. Anyway, I just wanted to say her name again because I
Say
really
her
honor
name.
her and what she's
Just like
bringing. Dionysia,
bitches,
I
say her name.
know. Yes.
Say the prophetess's name. Speak the oracle's name. Women are magic for the liberation of all women. Okay,
For the liberation of all the women.
that's what we're doing
Yes,
this
it's so
conversation here.
important. It's so important. And also, I just wanted to say, Lizzie, one thing,
Yeah,
because I started listening to that podcast again this morning
fun.
just to be in the energy of it again. So the one that I had listened to with Megan Watterson on
Yes.
We Can Do Hard Things, where she was interviewed, that was my first and only introduction to her. And that's then when I met Dio and moved into this
Great.
course.
Oh,
But one thing that
okay.
I wrote this down this morning is that salvation originally meant the original definition is to be made more alive. And I just thought that was just so incredible because it doesn't have anything to do with being saved by anybody else at all. It's to become more alive and becoming more alive in our lifetime,
Okay,
not in another lifetime, not
feel
after.
I just feel like layers of gunk just peeling off right now.
Yeah.
Also, when you said the word
Yes.
salvation, like, there is a part of my body that's like, "Ugh," that's my religious trauma.
Same.
So for anybody else
Yes.
that has that experience, we see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, one thing I'm really passionate about is that, take the time you need, everybody, to heal from religious trauma. And also, when you're ready, step back up to the plate, not of religion, but of better understanding the higher consciousness that is that these incredible ascended masters left for us, that is
Yeah.
true, that was
Yes.
taken over by institution. But underneath all of the taken overness and the empire and the control is actually a beautiful map of how to feel fully expressed as a divine being or a cosmic being, like I like to say, because the word divine got religionalized.
Yeah. Yes.
Being in human form. So when you're ready, and like I have friends
Yes.
who are in their atheist era, and I'm like, that's cool. And even if everybody stays there forever, that's also cool. And also, for me, there was a time where I felt incomplete with just being like, I'm out. This is all false. Like that was a phase, but I also felt a lot
Mm.
of enriching, healing, and enlightenment in my person by continuing to search for what was underneath and before religion.
Right. Right. That's so huge. And I also feel like the truth of all of it is the most simple thing because if you peel every single layer apart, every single one, it all comes down to love,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
I mean that is really it is that remembrance that that's all that we are, that's what we come from,
Mhm.
that's what we are having this human experience and everything that we go through if we are continuing on this conscious path is to get closer and closer and closer to that. That's what I always feel like. And that's really that is I mean it's the most beautiful thing, right? It's really the most beautiful thing if we can all just continue to get back to that one most important piece of everything, not just of life, of everything, of purpose,
Yeah.
of creation, of the cosmos, of everything. It just comes back to
Mhm.
love. And so I also that's just what I love about what this is bringing to me is that feeling that I always had where it wasn't I didn't feel like I needed to look outward or I needed someone else to tell me or if someone hadn't heard these teachings, I just always felt like, no, it is inside. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I've been loving about this so much, is that it's just now it's finally coming out, now that these texts have been found again and they're being revealed again, that yes, that's right. We don't go further out, we go further in. And
Yeah.
that's how we find the truth. That's how we connect with love. And so, yeah, so this course you were asking me about, I wish I had a better name than course, because it was transformative and is continuing to transform, and this beautiful
What
experience.
did you learn about Mary Magdalene though? Like, and how did your relationship with her change as you went through this thing?
I feel like I'm just being introduced to her. I don't even know that I have a relationship with her yet. It's like just starting. It's kind of this kindling,
Yeah. Yeah.
that like this introduction, and now I feel like I will continue going down this path and
Yeah.
truly be able to connect with her. But it really was, each week was based on one of the seven gates. And to
Okay, great.
explain that, which I feel like might be
Good.
difficult for me to explain, so hop in if you have any better wording. But it's the seven things that Mary Magdalene talks, that are in her
Gospel.
text.
Mhm.
Yes, in her gospel, the things that, maybe I would say this in the most human of terms, the things that get in the way of that connection with ourselves as cosmic beings. It's the parts of ego
Ego.
that can be shed away, um or that actually we need to experience and are here to experience, since we're in this human body. We're not meant to bypass the human body, like you said, but to experience each one of these things and be able to see them, to have them revealed to us, to work through them. And once we do that with these seven gates, we
Mhm.
go through these seven gates, or we work through these seven layers, we are even closer. That's just
Yes.
what I think in very simple
Closer
terms. And
to what?
so
Closer to what?
closer to that cosmic, or that divinity,
Love
that
that.
love, to me, to the love. Because I also cannot find a word that feels good to me for God. I
Love.
can't seem to find a word. So
Love.
love is the thing that is the closest to me, because there's nothing, when I think of that word, there's absolutely nothing that adulterates it. Is that the right word? There's
Mhm.
nothing that gets in the way
Yeah.
of that. It's just pure. It is absolute purity. So
Thank you.
I think it's, yeah.
I
So
wanna
for me,
Can I
it's that.
interject real quick in there, and then I wanna
Please.
keep going. I just
Yeah.
wanna say, again, I'm in real time, I'm noticing my body's responses, and I wanna talk it out because I know there's other people
Yes.
who have religious trauma. So I really just wanna remind anybody listening that just like you said, Lynn, salvation is aliveness. That was the big lie. They took they took
Yeah.
our human desire to feel heaven on earth and to feel good, and they said, you have to do these things and go this route and walk this path to get to this destination. They removed the
Right.
destination from within us to without us. That is
Right.
separation. Separation is the sickness of the humans. When we
Mm.
are not connected to our cosmic self as humans, we live in separation. Religion was like, I hold the keys,
Right.
or Jesus holds the keys. Somebody else holds the keys. Jesus didn't want to hold your keys, y'all. He was like, the whole thing, his whole message was they're in you. You don't need a
Yes.
religion or an institution. But again, the religion and institution wouldn't have been needed if they would have let that message be the one that survived. So they changed his words, they changed
Right.
his record, and they took out Mary Magdalene's gospel. So anyway, I just want to say and remind that when we're talking about the seven powers of the ego, we're not overcoming them to be worthy of something. That is religious, that is religious harm to your psyche. Um, we are we are alchemizing the ego's powers in our bodies so that we can experience a fullness of aliveness and
Mm.
cosmicness and oneness with our like cosmic self while in a human form. Okay. Our
Yes.
ego is, it is part of our psyche, and it attaches. it clamps down on a certain worldview or a certain identity. And if it was left all the way to our ego, we would never really engage with our cosmic self. And we know there's a lot of people on earth right now that that is what they're living. Okay. And I don't judge that at all, but that's the ego. The ego is like, we're just here. We're humans. This is it. It's like our muggle hat.
Mm.
And then our cosmic self bumps up, just like a tooth coming through. Our cosmic self is like, nope, I'm here. I'm here. And then pretty soon, ego death. The ego has to give way. And so these 7 powers of the ego that Mary Magdalene talked about, I'm not an expert on her. Again, I really want to encourage you guys, and neither is Lynn. Like, we're here as
Not at all. Not at
girls to
all.
Mary
Yeah.
Max. We're like,
Yeah.
yeah, with all sacredness and respect. But read the book Mary Mag. Can you hold it up again?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Read the book Mary Magdalene Revealed if you really want to get into like hear from Mary herself and go through the 7 powers of the ego. But I just had to say, for my own body and for the sake of sovereignty and liberation of all women,
Yes.
that
Yes.
and the feminine in all of us, right? That we're not trying to climb a ladder of worthiness. There is no hierarchy, and there is no external salvation out here that's being like a carrot dangled on a string. And if you
Yes.
believe that, that's okay. But it is fear. And we're making a return in consciousness to love. I believe that is what Jesus and Mary Magdalene were. That was their legacy, was love. Oh my gosh. So
That's right.
thank you. Thanks for letting me like, phew,
Yeah, yes, exactly. And I have those triggers too. Like even hearing you say like Mary Magdalene's gospel, like when I hear the word gospel, all of a sudden I feel like I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Or the word scripture, anything. I just like, yeah, I get really sweaty and I feel like I don't know. Can we use a different word?
I
But I
get
also
dizzy.
feel
Yeah.
like yeah, I also feel like what felt beautiful about this container that I went through was that it was an exploration, you
Mhm.
know? It was just an exploration of all of these things and these teachings and everything to just bring us closer to ourselves.
Mhm.
And to me, to bring us closer to our own personal freedom.
Mhm.
And this is what felt very sacred is that on the 7th time that we were in person, and each time included really incredible ceremony. It included these ancient oils
Mhm.
that Dio has. I mean, she's studied and studied and studied, and so she mixed for us these ancient oils that we could learn to anoint, or even the word anoint, I'm still getting used to, but I actually see it in this most beautiful way now to anoint ourselves,
Mhm.
to feel the sacredness of ourselves as humans, as spirits. Um, and the very last, the 7th time, we actually were invited, if we wanted to baptize ourselves.
Mhm.
And that to me was the idea of it really shook me. I have to say, it really, really shook me. And I had all these things coming in like, you can't do that. What do you mean baptize
Authority.
you? Like,
Where does
oh my
authority belong? Is
gosh.
it out here or is it
Yes.
here? Yeah.
Yeah. And just all these images coming back to me of a priest, like remembering a priest walking around with a baby in the church growing up, and he would baptize the baby and he would like walk around the church with this baby. And I remember just thinking, how beautiful is this innocent, incredible baby? Does this baby really need to be baptized? This child doesn't even have any say in what's happening. And I don't know, that always felt very odd to me. And then, I also experienced not as many, because usually you're a baby in the Catholic Church when you're baptized, but I experienced some adults choosing that for themselves and baptizing themselves in the church,
Yeah.
and so the idea of it for me took quite a while to maybe to alchemize would be the best word. And then thinking, of course, I can baptize myself, and I can baptize myself every day if I want to. And what is it that I am baptizing myself for? And we were all invited to either speak aloud or to ourselves. It could be something very private. And I chose mine to be private. It felt really, really sacred in that moment. But I'll share what it was now because it's for the liberation of all women. It was all about personal freedom. It was just all about freedom,
Mm,
wanting to feel that freedom within myself, knowing that I have that freedom, wanting other people to have the freedom, And so baptizing myself in this freezing cold water, there was something so incredible about that too. It was like a reset almost. Um, with that intention, or with that, I guess intention would be the best word. And coming out of that, something happened, as does, I feel like, when you have an intention and you're doing something ceremonial where talking through it doesn't quite get to it, imagining it doesn't quite get to it, having those things and then doing something about it also with all of our senses engaged,
right.
it shifted something
Mm,
really big in me. And all the tears came afterwards, but in this way of like, um, shook me, I guess I would say, like just that deep crying. It was like a releasing
mhm.
of any of the lies that anybody else has to play any part in you knowing your own divinity, your own love. I need another word too, Lizzie, for that, but
Your own
but
cosmic
really, like,
self.
your cosmic self. There's nothing there. How could there possibly be anything between who you are and who you are? You
Yeah,
know? How
yeah,
could there be anything? And
yeah.
what's more beautiful than coming back to that, remembering that from what's the deepest inside of you, you know?
Mm,
Um,
that's
there's
so
no one else that can do that for you. And there's nothing that, I don't know, I'm feeling like there's nothing that could feel better, more freeing, more liberating
mhm.
than knowing that for yourself and feeling it through and through in your human body. We also get to feel it in our human body. And
Yeah.
how incredible is that? We get to use all of our senses
Oh,
to
wow.
feel that. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was so
So,
beautiful. Thank you for sharing such an intimate, spiritual, personal experience.
mm,
I think this is exactly
absolutely.
why I ask people, take the time you need to heal from religious trauma, but you don't need to pick religion back up. But, when you engage in ceremony and when you try to understand what the underlying messages of the ascended masters, like Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Buddha and stuff, what they were before religion, you end up purging all
Yeah.
of all of the lies and all of the captivity and the oppression and the suppression and the repression of your
Right.
own authority. And that's the part I think people don't realize when they just walk away and say, okay, it's not true. And I did that.
Yeah.
And like I needed to do that for years. But ultimately, to innocence, remember that your innocence is your salvation. Your innocence
Yes.
is your aliveness. And the little child, the spiritual child in you who wants to have a spiritual
Yes.
home, the spiritual
Yes.
home is in you. And so
Right.
that search never has to end. And I think what I see is a lot of people who leave religion with the trauma and then they just stay there squashed like a bug from religion, and they're trying to pick up the pieces and they're trying to heal and take as long as that needs to take. There's no shame here, and trauma is real and it takes time to process, and sometimes it takes a therapist and it takes a life coach and it takes people to support
Yes.
you in community.
Yes.
And also I think that one of the things I love about Mary Magdalene is she's been a spiritually rebellious, sovereign place to re-enter the search for a spiritual home within myself. That's what she brought.
Mm. What did that, I'm so curious. I'm sure that you have shared, but I would just love to hear what that in in a nutshell, which is impossible, but what did that look like for you? I know it's been years and I know it's been going through a lot. I know it's been unraveling um, but I'm just wondering, I know that's such a deep question. That's such a deep question, but
Mhm.
just for what the different paths look like,
Yeah.
what did that path entail or look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So many of you guys know that in 2020, my grandma's had just passed away, and I had this I booked an energy session and a Reiki session to heal my grief, to process my grief, and I ended up having a full blown extrasensory visitation from my grandma, and then another one from my other grandma, and then both of my grandfathers, and then the door never closed after that. And for the first 4 years, I kept that to myself. And in those 4 years, so just after that awakening, we ended up selling everything and moving to Costa Rica. And we lived in Costa Rica for 7 months. And that's when I read Mary Magdalene Revealed. I had heard a few different friends talk about it, and I was actually still technically Mormon. All of my friends and family still thought I was Mormon, but inside of myself, I was just feeling like I was going to say like a stench, like a spiritual stench. I was like, something's not right. Like, what is it? I got to find it. Something is like rotting in my soul. And so I remember reading Mary Magdalene Revealed, and I remember reading the Gospel of Mary in that book, which there are pages of it that were ripped out. So what's interesting is when Constantine ordered all of these texts to be destroyed and burned, and he ordered that because the teachings within these particular parts of the canonical, texts would have made institution replete, like we wouldn't need it. And so that's why these particular pieces of the teachings of Christ, Mary Magdalene, and the Gospels were taken out. And then the ones that remained, they also still tampered with. But anyway, when I read Mary Magdalene's Gospel and she said there is no such thing as sin, it was as if all of the years of the fear that I lived in and the constant performance for a God who was so just, it's like the angry God of the Old Testament, all of that fear, like finally turned off my body. And what's interesting is in the weeks before this, I was breaking out in acne. I was having night wakings and panic attacks, which I hadn't experienced in years. And so it was almost like my body, like my subconscious parts, like my inner child, she knew that she was about to be let free. She knew she was about to be let free. And she was just like screaming her loudest psychosomatically. And then when I read those words, it was like it was finished. It was just done. And that's when I knew that I needed to leave Mormonism and I needed to let go of it. And so I'm so glad I was in Costa Rica when I realized that, because I had space from, being kind of not monitored. I mean, I'm sure it's well-meaning, well-intended friends, family, but I just had space to live my coming undone. So that was kind of the thing. What's interesting is, in hindsight, Mary Magdalene, her words, the words that Jesus told to her, and also the words that she chose to write, those are what freed me from, religion's dogma and its ownership and its authority over my sense of spiritual safety and my sense of spiritual home. And from there, it's just been a constant undoing, right? Because I was born and raised, and in fact, my husband and I have left Mormonism, but both of our lineages have been Mormons since it began. We're pretty rare.
Wow.
It's okay.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah. Like we have Mormon's version of royalty in each of our blood. So it was no small thing, and it's taken years. And this is one of the things I now support people through, is coming out and coming undone. And I have a mystery school. This is a relevant moment to share, but I met my business partner, Hallie, when I came out as a medium, which is a different story for later. had a dream that invited me to tell people that I had this gift after, so anyway, years later, I do come out as a medium and I meet Hallie and we birth together Threshold Keepers, which is the brand. And, but we have a 12-week mystery school called The Sacred Art of Coming Undone, because it is an art, because the ego, when it
Yes.
dies, right, it does have powers. It has, like it has like gumption to it, and it has it expresses through our nervous system, and it's a real living part of us. And so we study the art of a dying ego and how it puts up its last fights, and we actually talk about the
Mm.
7 points of Mary Magdalene in part of our curriculum. So we'll put the link in that below. But thanks for asking me to share my story.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know we would need weeks and weeks, and I know you've shared so much, but I love hearing how it's related to Mary Magdalene, and I think it's so fascinating to for both of us to have been steeped in these religions and to find liberation in somebody who's
Liberation. I'm
liberation
not
in
joking.
yeah, in somebody that is, I mean, in Mary Magdalene of all things. I did not expect that actually for my life at all, you know.
Yeah.
I find that to be, and it is sacred how you talk about the sacred coming undone. That is also a very sacred process that you need to be held through.
Oh
I
my
think.
lord,
I
I
mean,
wish with every fiber. I mean, I wouldn't go back, right? It's all for a reason, but part of the reason
yeah,
I exist is because it was so harrowing and isolating and
yeah,
literally
yeah,
unsafe in my body to
yeah.
to reclaim my own sense of authority, which was the particular flavor of the ego death I was going through. There's all kinds of ego death, but um yeah, my identity as a Mormon completely came undone. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And thanks to Mary Magdalene.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so interesting that the first gate is darkness and
Ooh.
it is death, right? It is death and darkness dying to one thing in order to, I mean, in this way we could say letting the ego die in order to let something so much more beautiful, infinitely more beautiful come through. And
Mm,
just that space of darkness and unknowing and truly, yeah, truly not knowing, that could be such a scary place to be. But that place of darkness is where we have all been birthed from. That's where everything has been birthed from, right? Is this darkness. That's where it all started. So,
mhm,
also, what sacredness there is in returning to that darkness and
mm.
reclaiming that as something so beautiful where only something can grow from that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love that. I would say that the void or the absence
mhm,
of any identity is is a pathway. When you get into that frequency, that is what connects you to your cosmic nature.
mhm,
And that's why I'm so grateful that that life initiates us and cracks our egos open and makes us fall apart over and over, because every time we do, we descend into the void. We descend
right.
into disorientation, disillusion, the muck of it's muck for our ego, but for our cosmic self, it's home. Our cosmic self, our cosmic
Right.
she's like, I'm not just Lizzie, the human. I'm so
Yeah.
much beyond all of that. So
Yes.
that's the gift in
Yes.
in the work of coming undone on purpose, is you take yourself to the void space, to the cosmic
Yeah.
wholeness. And I think ritual and ceremony, going back to the 7-week course you did, and your baptism of yourself, which was so beautifully
Mm.
shared, those moments are when your cosmic self and your human self can like sync up for a minute and be together.
Yes.
And so it's so beautiful.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and there's such peace that is waiting there too, or that's always there, right?
Mhm.
But finding that peace in the void
Mhm.
is really remarkable.
Mm, it really is. It is our I also like to call it the cosmic womb.
Right.
Or
Yes.
Kaya Ra in the Sophia Code, which is talk about this will break your ego for sure. It's a very
Mm.
cosmic text, and so your ego will fight with it, and it's great. It's a good time.
Mm.
But she calls it the womb of no thing, like the womb
Oh,
of
yeah.
no thing. I think she
Yes.
a little prayer here. Um, well, I don't know where it is, but she has this beautiful little prayer to Sophia that is like, take me to that place um, where I am nothing. Um,
Mm.
and like we both are terrified of it, and we also crave it because it's our home. It's our home
Right.
state as cosmic beings.
Right. Right.
Wow. Okay,
That's so beautiful.
we need to hear the fun. We have like 10 more minutes.
Okay.
I have to do a
Okay.
journey, but
Sure.
the fun number of 7. So the takeaway from our conversation is Mary Magdalene is here and available at any time for you to mentor with. If you want to like pray to her, if that resonates, I like to think of her as a mentor. Prayer makes me feel little, and God is big, and I'm like, nah, she's like, we're tight. So
Yeah.
mentor with Mary Magdalene and Jesus. They both came to
Right.
redeem the feminine, exalted consciousness in all of us, in our cosmic selves. And Mary Magdalene revealed, will you put the book up one more time? Because it was
Yep.
so powerful for me in my journey. Please, you guys, Megan Watterson, Meggan. She has let's read the subtitle. The First Apostle, Her Feminist Gospel, and the Christianity We Haven't Tried Yet. Now, it is not a religious book, okay?
Right.
It
Right.
actually picks through the narratives of religion to get to the underneath real messages that were there. But even the holy monks that buried her gospel, they did rip out a couple of the pages that they just knew. Like maybe they were terrified for their lives, but the most potent teachings are probably gone. But that's okay because the reality and truth exist within us.
Yes, right. Which is something so beautiful about those pages that are missing too. Of course, we all want to know what they say. We all want to know and read the answer,
Yeah. But
But
Megan Watterson does a really good job of kind of like in an even keeled way parsing out what could have been said. And, we
uh,
don't know. And she
yes.
acknowledges that too.
Yeah.
But she's a fabulous writer. It is not a dry theological,
No.
like, yes, there's research, but she tells it through story. So I just can't say enough good things. Fun fact. I actually pitched Megan Watterson's PR team because I
Oh,
wanted to go on this podcast called Mormon Stories and share my coming undone. It's for post Mormons, and I wanted to share how I left Mormonism thanks to the gospel of, and then I wanted Megan there, and she actually said yes, but
wow.
I know, but the Mormon Stories podcast didn't take my submission, at least this time around. So if
Okay.
anybody has connections, let me know.
Yes, yes, yes.
I want to, my story is incredible, and Megan's incredible. So, okay, speaking
Yeah.
of stories though, let's hear a quick I want to hear the magic. You go to Italy for 7 weeks with your family. This
Yes.
story, when I heard you tell it, was like, it helped me remember that online business and sitting behind a computer does not have to be my end game
Yes,
out
right.
there. So tell us, how'd you do it and how'd you make it happen? And like, what are your hot tips for somebody who wants to have an epic once in a lifetime trip?
Okay, okay. So, yes, to give a little background, let's see, at the time we went, my kids were 6 and 9, and I had been feeling like I want to go abroad with our kids. My husband and I are both photographers, and a lot of our work is done over the summer and the fall, and we could never figure out when will we do this because that's when we work, and then our kids are in school the other, part
Right.
of the year. But, it just would not go away, would not leave me, and Italy was the place that just kept coming, would not leave me. It was supposed to be Italy, and so, we decided that we would look at the calendar and mark off all the time that we possibly could, which was 7 weeks, and somehow we were gonna make it work, and so it really was kind of diving in, not knowing what was gonna happen, how it could possibly work, and it did. So I was telling Lizzie that I was not on social media at all, but I joined Facebook at that time and found this group called World Schoolers. and started posting in there. We're a family of 4. My husband and I are professional photographers. We have this idea to come to Italy, and we would love to do exchanges with our photography. Is anybody willing to host us? We would be happy to do photos for you. And I listed a bunch of different ways it could be helpful. And I really put it out there thinking, is anybody going to respond to that? And I had so many responses. Within 2 weeks, the whole trip was planned. Um,
Yeah,
there
we're gonna
were
drop the
just,
links that she used, by the way, like, we'll put the links so that you guys can check out
yeah.
some of the jobs she got and this website that helps you get these. It's called, what is it called again?
So, Workaway is one of the things that actually, believe it or not, I found so many things on there, but none of those came. The one that was going to come through with that was the only one that got canceled.
Okay, so it's through
But
this link.
other, it was through this world schooling group and then some other places that I had found and referrals from people. But what I want to stress is that I had this trust in people being good, and responding to us. When I received responses, it's like I could just feel right away somebody's heart. And I think they also felt what I was putting out there. And there was just this trust, which I always seem to find whenever I travel. Also, I'm sure this has been your experience as well, that when I step out of my comfort zone and go to another part of the world, I just see the best in humanity. And
Mhm.
that's what this whole trip was. So the whole trip also miraculously laid itself out by the people that responded in the weeks that they said they could host us. It laid out in this perfect way all the way around Italy, starting in Rome, going around and coming back to Rome.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so we had incredible experiences. We stayed with some families that opened their homes to us. One family had been gone living in Australia for years. They were just getting back, and they invited us to come and stay in their home the day after they returned to their home. We came and we stayed with them for 2 weeks. They cooked this phenomenal Italian meal with all of their friends and family they hadn't seen forever, and they invited us to join. They had kids that were the same age as us, and so we just connected in this way. I was telling Lizzie that we went to a summer camp that was for Italian kids learning English. And so there were 48 kids, and our kids joining made 50. They were the only native English speakers there. And I taught the kids there photography, just really fun photography, doing different things. My husband did marketing for them by doing video. And I did some photos so that the camp had marketing. We stayed in a villa for a family that wanted to start hosting retreats there, but they didn't have any marketing photos at all. And so we were able to stay in this villa and use their pool and stay in these amazing rooms, um,
Oh my gosh.
and photograph the whole thing for them. Um, oh my gosh, and then another one that I just loved that I was telling you about was a family that has a restaurant and owns these different apartments in this little hamlet, and this gorgeous pool that has lavender plants all around and rosemary and olive trees, and it's just like full of abundance. And they were hosting a yoga group for the first time, and they had never done anything vegan, and they were creating a vegan meal, and they invited us to photograph that so that they could further it with their marketing. And then they also invited me into the kitchen and cook with them one day.
It's like a
And
like, this is, you could not pay for this kind of an experience. You
exactly,
could
it,
not
it
book a
was a
tour and have
dream.
this authentic of connections and open-heartedness
Yes.
and open doors and stay.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. And
so
I just want to stress
wow.
that there was no money exchanged for any of those. It was all it was all an exchange. We were doing it with our gift of photography, and then we were having these amazing cultural experiences that were so real. And the whole thing was just, it was so beautiful. It was so magical. It was just like I said, it was just trusting humanity and connecting, and I mean, all the best things in life, I feel like. And then at the very end, I was telling Lizzie, just like the cherry on top is that our trip was our flight to come home was canceled, which was no big deal for us because we didn't have anything planned for the rest of, that week. And so we came back a day later. And then a few weeks later, we were notified that because that happened, we would be reimbursed for our plane tickets. We just had to send something saying this is what happened. And all of our tickets were refunded. And so we
That's so
literally
European. They're so awesome like that.
so it was just incredible. And it's just this testament also to like the magic that exists and
Totally.
that wants to happen, and following those nudges that you have, even if they don't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
7 weeks in Italy, that seems crazy. And this is what came from it. It was so much more beautiful than I could have
Mhm.
ever planned it to be.
Okay, I
Um,
have an idea. This is what I'm gonna do.
yes. Okay.
I don't know
Yes.
if I'm
Yes.
serious, but this is serious, like, I would
Okay.
what if I offer to be, like, a medium and do readings for people, for grieving families who have
Yes.
lost loved ones, and then they can, like,
Yes.
host my family, and I'll just do,
Yes.
like, they can just bring in whoever, kinda like Jesus would have done, right? Like, he's, like, going to people's
Yes.
houses, they bring in people, he's healing people. Like, I could be, like, the
Yes.
traveling European medium.
Yes. Yes. Do you know? I mean, because so many people need your gift.
They do.
So many people need your gift. Your gift is life
And I'm finally
changing for
ready to share it.
people.
I was not
And you're
always
ready to share
but
it.
I am now. I
Yes.
had an experience. There's an article I wrote called "Of the Devil," where I did a reading for a close friend, and then a family member of hers shat on my reading. Her family member was just like, "She's of the devil. You can't trust her," even though it was this gorgeous reading, and her dad came through, and he
Wow.
said things neither of us would have, I wouldn't have known. So it was very reliable reading, and her very Jesus loving, father-in-law said that, and so I was wounded for a while, and I needed to go
Yeah.
hiding and be wounded, but now I feel
Yeah.
ready, and I'm so thrilled, and I only charge $150, guys, for like I've been coaching for 8 years, and I hold space professionally and trauma informed, and I could charge probably $500.
Yes.
But I don't want to. So come book a reading. I want to use my gifts, but yeah, maybe I'll just go on a tour
Yes.
around
And
Europe.
also, I know, I mean, that's the amazing thing too about exchanges. I always want people to know this is possible because we all have these gifts. And I've done so many different exchanges, and it doesn't have to line up financially either. Like there is beauty in taking finances out of it completely, because then there's just generosity
Right.
that we just want to be generous with each other and make sure that
Yeah.
the person is getting the very best of what we offer. I
Yeah.
mean, we did one of those experiences in Italy. We stayed with this family for 10 days and we did one photo shoot for them. I mean, that doesn't equal, but our energetic exchange and what happened between our two families and this connection is will last a lifetime.
Right.
So if we can just get back to that energetic level too, incorporate it into our lives,
Yeah. Yes.
that continues to raise the vibration and remind us of who we are and the gifts that we have, and how connection is really at the core. It all comes back to love and the liberation, the
And
liberation of
the
us.
liberation of all women. Yes. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. That was so inspirational and magnetic and such
Yes.
a reminder of just what the world can feel like, like we can make it
Yeah.
commercial and capitalistic, or we can make it loving and tender and communal. And
Yes. Yes.
I want that.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
there are avenues. So we will share the links of
Yes.
maybe I'll have you write up like just a few bullet
Yep.
points of kind of your best tips and stuff so that
I'm
people
happy to. Yes, I'm happy to.
make the communal traveling magic.
Yes, I would love to do that. And then hear stories of people that do it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to can we just hold a prayer together for humanity for a moment? I will lead it. Is that okay?
Yes.
Um, so first of all, I wanted to thank everybody who tuned in today on this live. And I want to thank all the people that are subscribers and our friends and our family. And all of the coaches and the therapists and the mystical, magical ones who have held Lynn and I on our journeys. And I also want to thank our spirit guides and our deceased loved ones and our angels who constantly are weaving threads through our reality to help us fulfill our destiny, our purpose, and to help us really feel our cosmic nature in this human form. And I just want to dedicate this conversation to the liberation of the nervous systems in the humans and the liberation of the cosmic nature of all of us, that we may truly reconnect with our divine selves or our cosmic selves. And that may we remember that the authority is in us, that the love is the answer, and that your authentic self is wanted and needed. And may we be available to step up to the plate of ego death and let us come undone. May we not be afraid of the void and of being in the in between and the liminal time, for that is when our cosmic nature comes through. And that is when we are closest to our soul and to the mother creatrix of this being in this or this existence. So, and so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Lizzie. Thank you, everybody.
This was so fun. I love that this just happened from a coffee chat.
Me
All
too.
right, loves, put in the comments, please comment and let us know what's resonating about this, how it helped you. If you have any questions, if you have any shares about your own understanding of Mary Magdalene, your own relationship with her, with Jesus, with any ascended masters, and any of that, we'd love to discuss with you in the comments. And Lynn is an incredible photographer. Where can they find your photography?
Thank you. 2 places. So, David Lynn Photo, and Lynn is Lynn, davidlynnphoto.com. And then Illumine Photo, ILLUMINE photo.com,
Okay.
are my two businesses.
Okay, and we will
Thank
put
you.
those links in the show note or in the article here.
That's great. Thank
Mwah!
you.
May the magic follow you all day long.
Yes.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye.
being here.